Hey, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Karsten.
And here's what's going on this week at New Life.
Yeah, so when you walked in, you should have gotten an info card in your program. And man, we just believe in info cards because we want to pray with you. On the back is a place just for your prayer requests, and a team prays over them every single week. So fill out your info on that. We'd love to keep you up to date with all the events and everything going on. So take some time to do that now.
Yeah. Karsten, I have this theory.
Okay.
Now, we're not parents yet, but I already know what parents hate the most. You know what they hate? Lines.
Oh.
And not only lines, they hate waiting in lines with their kids. And so here's what we're doing at New Life Kids. We are working so hard as a team to create these fast passes for our new electronic check-in. Stay tuned for more details, but our team's just working so hard to eliminate waiting in lines with your kids.
It's like Disneyland.
It is like Disneyland. It's like a fast pass.
Hey, Ray Johnston's here this weekend, and I'm just excited to hear his passion behind the Good News Challenge. Ray's written 2 books, both available in the lobby. One's called Hope Quotient, and the other one's called Jesus Called and He Wants His Church Back.
Hello? Jesus? Hey, it's Kayla!
Kids faster. So we're just excited for what Ray has to share this weekend, but Ray really believes that the gospel unleashes compassion. And I don't know when you came in, you saw out in the parking lot, but we actually have the compassion experience here for you to walk through. And really what it is, it's 20 minutes of you getting to see what it would look like living in a developing nation. So I'd encourage you, sign up today at newlife.tv/compassion. You're not gonna wanna miss it.
Hey, we have a military night out coming up. It's on May 26th, and the doors are gonna open at 6 p.m. This is for all military families. Drop your kids off. We are gonna give you a date night. And for the first 50, Karsten, we have gift cards. So get there early. Doors open at 6. It's gonna be a blast.
So we are so glad you're here this week. I believe that Jesus is going to speak to you. So grab your note sheets and let's jump into the message.
Right on. How many of you guys know we opened this training center 4 weeks ago? We're 4 weeks old. Isn't that cool? And so a ton of you guys gave to help do that. And so the giving buckets are passing now. If you can drop stuff in there or pray and just ask God to multiply that. So I wrote a book called People Becoming the Church. How many have got one of those books so I can just see who still needs God? Okay. Bunch of you guys. Okay. And so 2 hands. I like that. Thank you. Right on. How many know someone that needs that book, right? We need to get it out. So it's the heartbeat of this church is people becoming the church. That's you, that you realize you and your friends, people around, you're becoming the church together, making a difference in this world. And so with that, we have a challenge every single week. So this week's called the Good News Challenge. You know, you think about this. Jesus' plan to share the good news with the entire world is us. But I think about how many Christians feel like they're just not qualified, or God doesn't want to speak through them. It's maybe through a pastor. And I wonder how many people are like, you know what? I just don't feel like I could share the good news. Well, I believe you're going to leave here today going, you know what? Not only do I have great news, I want to share it, and I can't wait to share it with somebody, and they're going to love hearing it. So it's going like, who could I have come? And I thought, you know what? I want to have my mentor, Ray Johnston, come and share, because he just powerfully shares the good news. And not only that, I met him 7 years ago in Kenya, Africa, with Compassion International. And so I thought, let's not only bring Ray, let's bring Compassion International. How many of you guys see the semi outside? Right? Yeah, but isn't that awesome? How many have gone through the 20-minute guided experience, the 20-minute compassion experience? Listen, everybody today or tomorrow go through, okay? It's 20 minutes. It's like being in another country in our parking lot. You can take your kids through it, take anybody through it. So we brought Compassion out here. We brought Ray out here. And so I am so pumped for today. Would you give a warm New Life welcome to Ray Johnston? Come on, Ray.
Hey, first of all, it is great to be here. I've had a long relationship with Wes and your church. I was actually a few years ago with Wes up here, standing on this property and praying for the future of this building. And I have to tell you, it is so exciting to be here and to see it. This place is spectacular. Wouldn't you agree? This is very cool. So I also want to say one thing, and you got to let me say this. I love your senior pastor. And as a matter of fact, when somebody around me goes, who's your favorite senior pastor in America? And I know a ton of them. Our Thrive conference goes to about 5,000 people. So there are I know a lot of leaders. Wes is my favorite pastor in America because, and I don't know if you were aware, I'm in a lot of churches. Your church is well led and well loved. And you usually don't get both in the same church. I hope you all know how good you have it, because he is really good. I'd like to take him home with me. So so take good care of this guy. And so I think we ought to appreciate Wes for a second here for being an amazing pastor. So well done, bud.
I appreciate that. I bought him dinner last night, so
That's right. Yeah, and he actually wrote that introduction. It was right here, so it's looking good. So
you nailed it.
That's
I
right.
had a couple other things you didn't say. We'll work on it. And
That's
so,
right.
Ray and I were in Kenya. Do you remember being in Africa?
No kidding.
And
myself, a guy named John Harris, who's right back there somewhere, I go to Africa every year. I take pastors from America, and we take 16 at a time, and we hope they sort of get fired up. And then what happens is they come back and do a Compassion Sunday at their church, just like here, and everybody, say the word everybody. Everybody. Turn to the person next to you and say, that means you. Everybody sponsors a kid. And it changes cities and communities out there. And so we hauled Wes there. It was the first time we'd met. And we had a ball.
I think I have a picture of me in Kenya, and that's me right there with the cool looking hair. And so...
You're getting better looking as you get older.
Well, some people do.
And some don't. All right, here we go. Wes, this is a pretty amazing picture. Is that 7 years ago?
7 years ago.
7 years ago. Tell him who the guy is that you're shaking his hand.
Okay, I'm shaking hands with Raphael. He's a sponsored child, and he was he was just getting ready to graduate from high school.
Yep. And Raphael is in a community called Dandora. It's one of the toughest slums in Africa. It's one of the two toughest slums, actually, in all of Africa. And if you want to know what's it like, they are famous for the world, kind of the biggest dump you've ever seen. Here's an actual picture. That's Dandora, people. And see that dump? That's actually critical. I mean, it's toxic and unhealthy, but a ton of really poor people live around there. And here's another picture. And they scavenge in the dump to try to find food to eat so they don't die overnight. It's crazy. And Raphael, the kid you saw there, grew up. His family was by that dump and would have to scavenge to stay alive, and ended up becoming a Compassion kid. And at this point, he's actually in high school doing very well, which is a very rare thing for that entire community. And that's when he had a chance to meet you. That was very cool.
It was really
Kid's
cool.
a hero.
Well, this week I knew you were coming, and I was looking at that picture. Go ahead and put the picture back up. And I was looking at Raphael, and I was going, okay. A lot of times we say, hey, sponsor a kid or do something because it's going to make a difference. And I'm looking at him and going, it's been 7 years, Ray. I wonder what difference has happened in his life because someone sponsored him.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's probably impossible, but wouldn't it be cool if we could even talk to him and ask?
Well, it's more possible than you think, because when we found out we were going to be here and we knew they had a connection, we flew him in. And this never happened. So would you get on your feet all the way from Dandora, Nairobi, Kenya? Welcome, Raphael from Compassion.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey.
All right. First of all, go ahead and have a seat. Raphael's going to get a big head. Hey, first of all, Raphael, would you like to bring a greeting from Kenya?
Sure. Turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor, Jambo Rafiki. Tell your neighbor, Jambo Rafiki. That means you tell them they are wonderfully and fearfully made. Give them a high five. That's just hello.
Y'all can tell Raphael's kind of shy. So, and Raphael, when growing up, we just showed the pictures of the dump that we drove by every day, and you were there every day. Mm-hmm. You have 10 brothers and sisters, but tell everybody what happened.
I grew up in Dandora from the pictures that you have just seen, and I had 10 siblings. Life was very hard with my mom as the sole breadwinner, and so from the dump site that you've just seen, that was home for us, where we would go and get food that had been thrown away. And because life was so hard, I had 4 of my siblings who died as a result of preventable diseases. And in fact, the last one who just died was very bad because, she had been sick for some time and we didn't get money to take her to the hospital. So she actually died right next to me in the bed. And I also suffered the same sickness of breathing problem. And so I knew I had no hope. All that I knew was very well that definitely if 4 of my siblings had died, then I was the next option. I didn't know that I would be alive today. Yes.
That's amazing. And you woke up one morning and your sister was next to you and she was dead.
Yes.
And that's just life there. Nobody goes to school there. And what happens is, matter of fact, underneath your chairs, and everybody do this, find one, everybody, husbands and wives, grab one each, just pull it out and take a look at who's on there, because a few years ago in an American church just like this, there should be, if you don't have one, if you don't have one, raise your hand, we'll get one passed down to you, because we're gonna, the least you can do is pray for these kids. There we go, keep your hand up. How many of you have a boy? Let me see, how many have a boy? Okay, as you're looking at that thing. How many have a girl? Okay. What happened is this. A few years ago, somebody in a church just like this reached under their chair, pulled this out, looked down, and it was your picture.
Yes.
And they sponsored you, and then once they sponsored, you can actually write, but this sounds like it's cheap. It's like $38 a month, but it's a major deal in their setting. Tell everybody when you found out you had a sponsor. This is an amazing story.
When I found out that I had a sponsor, what my sponsor did is that she sent me her first letter with her photo attached to it. And so when I was called in the office and told this is going to be your sponsor, I was so much excited and I was so much happy that I literally went to school showing all my classmates that I had a muzungu. And do you know what muzungu means? It means a white person. Yes. So, white man. So I was.
So you're running around going,
excited.
I got a white guy. Okay.
Yes.
And because of that, what's happened since?
And as a result of the sponsorship, that my sponsor decided to pick this boy who was hopeless, scavenging in the dump site, and death was awaiting just for him. I got an opportunity to go to school, to get school uniform. I got an opportunity to receive Jesus Christ when I was in grade 5, which was really awesome. And I also got an opportunity to get medical care. I was taken to good hospital, and today, as you can see, I am healthy. Am I healthy?
Right.
Yes.
So, and by the way, that's not all. If you're right now, you're holding a kid. You're thinking, do I respond to this kid or not? My first trip with Compassion, I'm kind of wired cynical. So when somebody tells me I don't necessarily believe it, and my first trip with Compassion, I went to Africa, and they told me, they said, we have, the minute a kid gets sponsored, 9 things flood into the life of this kid. All their medical care. They get a mentor. They get connected to a church. They get to go to school. In Africa, you have to pay to go to school. So if you're born in poverty and you're in the dump trying to find stuff to eat, no way do you have time or money to go to school, which means they're locked into a cycle of poverty. The second this kid gets sponsored, all of a sudden, wham, school's now an option. And all these things. And they also told me, and this is the one I didn't believe, they said, and we have a notebook, get this, for every kid with 9 sections in the notebook. Every individual kid has their own notebook on site. And so I waited till the 3rd site we went to, and I said, okay, I want to see the notebooks. They hauled out 300 notebooks. I opened them up, and I was going, there was pictures of the kids on the front every year, and then section number 1. And the first section was all of their medical care. All the immunizations, everything it takes to get out of it. Section number 2 was all their discipleship stuff and their relationship with Christ. Section number 3 was their report cards. And I mean, matter of fact, Wes, I was looking at this stuff and I was going, the 3rd notebook opened up, this girl, I noticed her grades were dropping. I think she was 11 or 12. And so I called somebody over and I said, hey, I noticed her grades are dropping, what's up? And they said, oh, her mom died, her dad died, She moved with her aunt, and her aunt died, and so it's been tough for her to pay attention at school. And they said, but we're on it, and we're taking care of her. And I'm sitting here going, they're taking, every kid has their own notebook, their own progress report, their own discipler. And I'm sitting there going, we're not doing that good of a job in my church. Our kids on Bayside don't have individual notebooks. I'm sure they do here, but not in mine. And I was sitting there going, I've never seen anything run this well. I don't work for compassion, but I came back going, how do you change the world one kid at a time? And what happens is you get to go to school.
Yes.
And then he does well. So, I mean, this is a big deal for his community. He goes to high school. And he does well in high school. And then what happened? You got accepted.
After that, I got an opportunity to go to one of the most prestigious universities in Kenya, the University of Nairobi. And that was made courtesy of Bayside Church.
Yeah, what happened is we found out he got accepted to the university, so our church took a second offering and we paid for his university education. And
Thank you.
Since we paid for your education, did you graduate?
Yes, I did graduate. And my graduation was very colorful, and guys from my community, all of them came to witness this boy who was hopeless graduating, and I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology.
Isn't that cool?
Thank you.
And not only that, this is such a big deal in this huge community of Pandora. At your graduation, the whole community showed up because it never happened before. And which means if you're a graduate of the University of Nairobi and you're out of his community, you can write your ticket and cash in. And instead of doing that, Raphael, what are you doing now?
I decided to go back to one of the compassion-assisted projects, and currently I serve as a project director with close to 300 children, where we are doing amazing work, encouraging the kids that indeed they're going to make it in life, just the same way God enabled me through my sponsor to make it in life. And we are rescuing girls who are going through female genital mutilation. And it's awesome working for the kids.
Isn't that great what Raphael's given his life to? And if you're going, right now, you're holding the future of a kid in your hand, okay? If some of you are going, first of all, you're going, what does this cost? It's $38 a month, okay? Which I started going, how does that add up? Like, that's like going to the movie one time if you buy the popcorn. How many of you sneak food into theaters? Good, that's God's will. That's called good stewardship. Keep it up. So $38 a month. Any of you here coffee types? That is like 5 trips to Starbucks or something. Not in a month. That's in a month, okay? Some of you are going, that's just a good day. Or in a couple years, it's like a gallon of gas. It's awesome. And if you're going, should I do this? Our church, Bayside, has been doing this. We do this exact Sunday once a year. Right now, Harris, are you around? 20,000. How many kids are sponsored? Around 20,000. Yeah, our church sponsors about 20,000 kids now. The people in our church. We have a teenage girl that sponsors 7 kids, and she works a part-time job to basically change the world 7 kids at a time. We have a family at our church. They just crossed the line. They have 19 kids they sponsor. If you're asking, Wes does this. My wife and I do this. Our family has 8 kids now. This family with 19 kids, it's kind of cool. Right, you open the front door, you walk right in their foyer, and they have all 18 kids lined up because it's a great conversation starter when somebody comes over to visit. Okay? And so if you're going, should I do this? It is $38 a month, or you can multiply that by however many kids you want to sponsor. And Wes, how do they do that?
Okay, well, at your seat, you have this card right here. At the bottom, it says, yes, I'd like to sponsor. The blue part there, all you have to do is during the gathering sometime, during one of the parts that maybe...
Yeah, during the message, when it gets really boring, and there will be a lot of that, go ahead and fill it out.
So you can fill out the blue part there at that point, And at the end of our gathering, there'll be a moment where on the way out, you can just rip off the blue part and drop it off. You actually keep the card because that's your sponsor child. And there's even a place for you to write your first letter and send that in.
That's right.
So it's as simple as that. Just filling out the blue part right here. And you can do that right at your seat.
That's right.
And in fact, we might even give people a few moments right now to pray about that.
Yeah.
And take a moment to even write that out right now.
It's a cool thing. My best moment as a parent was watching my kids fill these out. And I went, thank God I have generous kids. Some days they can support their dad. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have the worship song, and we just want to invite you to stay seated, pray for that kid, and if you're going, you know what, I'm going to do this, go ahead and fill that out during this worship song, and then we'll be back in a minute. Hey, and I think it'd be cool. At the end of the service, we're going to have Raphael come back out and pray for you and the kids you're holding in Swahili. Okay? So you up for that?
Yes.
That's awesome. Can we express our appreciation for Raphael? It's a long way to come back.
Thank you.
What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. Death could not hold you. The veil tore before you. The silence, the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring, the praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again. You have no rival, you have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Yours in the kingdom, yours in the glory. Yours is the name above all names. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful parody. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus.
That was great. Thank you. All right, folks, if you would get out your message notes, this is going to be the shortest 7-minute TED Talk sermon you have ever heard in your life, okay? So, everybody got that stuff out? What I want to do, got message outlines, and I'm going to be covering 2 of the points, so just get ready to write as fast as you can. And I basically also want to say this. Tonight, I would encourage you to come back. We are creating a special Sunday night, and I just did this for 4,000 people actually it was almost 5,000 people at a leadership conference, because here's what's going on. Our country feels like it's shaking, doesn't it to you? And it feels like a whole bunch of things. I mean, it is getting harder to be a teenager. It's getting harder to be a kid. If you're a parent or a grandparent, it's harder to shape values. And the reason is this: there are 4 massive future trends, cultural earthquakes that are shaking our country and impacting everything, and nobody knows it's even. So tonight, I am going to walk through 4 massive trends that are impacting you, your marriage, your kids, your grandkids, and then I'm going to unpack how should marriages, parents, and people that care about the Christian faith respond in the light of that. So it's tonight. What time does it start? 6:15. So there's nothing on TV that'll compare. Just tape whatever, record whatever you're watching and get her. The other thing is this. A couple years ago, I developed a passion for a couple subjects, and I just wrote a couple books. I don't make any money on these books. The proceeds from these books go to a ministry in Cambodia that rescues girls out of sex trafficking, okay? And this is a book. Have you noticed a lot of Christians kind of ignore Jesus? And so I wrote a book going, Jesus called, he wants his church back. And this book is designed to reintroduce Christians to the Jesus they've ignored. And basically, it's a real politically incorrect book. So is anybody that okay with y'all up here? Okay, good. And then this is the most important thing I've ever written. I wrote a book called HQ, The Hope Quotient, because I have good news for you. Your HQ, your hope quotient, is more important than your IQ. There are a lot of smart people not doing well. This book took 7 years to write. It was a research project, and it's the only book ever written on the subject of hope that fundamentally is not about hope. It is about the 7 things that if you will build them into your life and into your kids, you will have sustainable hope. And if you don't build these 7 things in, you have no foundation for hope, and your entire future is going to be massively limited, okay? And so I'll be out. There's a book table. I think it's outside. I'll be out there afterwards. If this would help you, let me know. Now, the message. I need to tell you something about myself by way of introduction. I'm Ray Johnston, and I grew up in Southern California. I was an atheist growing up, okay? I grew up in an executive, jet-set atheist family. My dad was a big shot business guy down there. My dad ended up, matter of fact, years ago, guys wanted to run my dad for governor of California. He turned them down, and they ran a guy named Ronald Reagan instead. So I ran in those circles, okay? My dad was an atheist, told me one time, there's just no God. So when I was 18 years old, I talked a guy out of becoming a Christian. This does not look good on the pastor's resume. And when I was 19, after 6 months of studying all the evidence, I crossed the line, ended up becoming a Christian. Now, what happened is this. My dad and mom ended up getting divorced. Now, them getting divorced was no surprise in my jet-set family. Because, check this out, if you have my family tree, for 150 years in my family tree, there is not one lasting marriage, not one. Not one marriage. I mean, both sets of grandparents are divorced. I got sisters, they're all divorced. Every relative's been divorced. I end up being the first person in my family to meet Jesus, okay? My wife and I just celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary. And the cool thing about that is this. What's interesting about that is this. When somebody comes up and goes, I just don't think Jesus or the Bible or the church makes that big of a difference, I go, are you kidding me? I whip out my family tree and I go, 150 years of busted families. My wife and I have been married 33 years, which means we now have the longest running marriage in the history of my family tree. Matter of fact, we took my family tree, we cut it down, we're using it for kindling to build a whole new deal, okay? And so I want to say 2 things. Number one, I want to say this. Jesus Christ, a great church like this one with a pastor who actually lives what he's talking about, that kind of, and the Bible. And the other thing I want to say, and it's point 1, okay? I'm going to talk about how do you share your faith without embarrassing God? Because too many Christians are embarrassing. Would you agree? Yeah, I mean, I was at a golf tournament a while back, and some guy screaming to everybody with a microphone, they're going to hell. And 5 hours later, I walk out of the golf tournament, this guy's still standing on a soapbox screaming, everybody's going to hell, and he's holding up a sign, and the sign says, the wages of sin is death. You know, like, welcome to the golf tournament. And so you know what I do? I walk out, I finally had it. I walked up to this guy, I got like this far away, and I said, hey, I got a question, shut up for a second. He wouldn't even look at me. You're going to hell, you're going to hell, you're going to hell, you're going to look at me, you're going to hell. You know, and I said, whoa, I just want to ask you a question. He wouldn't even stop. Guy's not even a human being. It's like I got a Christian robot jerk. jerk in Jesus' name. And I'm finally going, what the heck's going on here? And so finally, now he never ever would look at me. I got too close. You ever anybody do that to you? I got too close. He still wouldn't look at me. I finally walked off. There's nothing to help. Would you agree that guy's doing more harm than good? And here's what I wanted to say to him. What I wanted to say to him is, if he would have paid attention, I said, look, I think we're on the same team, dude. Like, I'm a Christ follower. Here's the deal, though. If you're going to hold a verse up for thousands of people as they walk by, for God's sake, hold up the whole verse. Because the Bible does say the wages of sin is death, but the second half of the verse says, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Jesus Christ our Lord. That make sense? And so hold up the entire verse. So I have 2 quick points to make, and then we'll pick this up tonight because you're all coming. Here we go, okay? Number 1 is this. We have good news. How do you share your faith without embarrassing God? Number 1 is this. We have good news. If you're going, well, what's the good news? Glad you asked. Turn to the back page. Turn to the back page. I have a whole good news section in here. Because of Jesus. If you connect to Jesus, here's what happens. You get to know God. You can receive complete forgiveness, a brand new start, and let your past go. Anybody need that? Okay, check this out. You can let go of guilt. You can receive eternal life and know you're living forever. You can live with God's power, God's purpose, have hope, have real peace, God's presence. You can overcome fear and discouragement, the 2 things that wreck everybody's life on the inside. You can trust the promise of God. You can develop a confident faith. You discover you actually matter to the God of the universe. In other words, we have really great news. And would you agree? The worse the world looks, the better the good news looks. Would you all agree? That's point 1. The second thing I want to say is this. Point 3, and this changed my life. Point 3 is this. The only way to deliver the good news in a God-honoring way is to unleash compassion. In other words, unleashing compassion is more effective than shut up and listen. Would you agree? And this changed my life. I'm going to put it on the screen. Just look up the screen right here, okay? My life was changed. I'm pastoring a church called Bayside. This weekend, 17,000 to 18,000 people there in Northern California. About 9 years ago, it was the fastest growing church north of Los Angeles, and I go to Newport Beach to a study group, and we study this, and my entire life changed. It said this, selling their possessions and goods they gave to anyone as he had needs. The early church started with good deeds. So the early Christians, let's share our faith. How are we going to do it? Scream at people? No, they started with good deeds. You know what's interesting is, everything has a result. You reap what you sow. So then it says this, they praised God, enjoyed the favor. Their good deeds led to what? Goodwill. Does the American church have favor with people? No, because we're not starting with good deeds. And I love the very next verse says, and the Lord added to the number daily those who were being what? Saved. That's good news. And I sat there and I have never recovered because I realized good deeds, matter of fact, we're going to say this out loud. Good deeds lead to good, which leads to openness to the good news. And I thought to myself, like almost every other American church, we have been trying to deliver the good news without good, so there's no good will. I called our staff together and I said, I don't care if it wrecks our church. We will get this right. We are going to challenge everybody to unleash compassion. The first way we're going to do it, we're going to have a compassion Sunday and literally we're going to push everybody off the cliff of compassion and get them rescuing a kid around the world somewhere, and it's going to be everybody. And we literally went, we're going to do this. And now what happens is this. We have built it into everything. I actually think this. There are 330,000 churches in America. There are tens of millions of Christians in America. Can you imagine what would happen if every church in America started with good deeds? And that's what we're known for. That would lead to good, which would then lead to openness to the good news, and our entire country would come back to Christ. Can you imagine what would happen if every Christian said, I'm here to do good? That'll lead to all kinds of goodwill, which lead to all kinds of openness to the good news. And we have actually, that has changed our church in everything. We shut down. Once a year, we literally shut our church down. And we interview everybody that works with the poor all of these folks, and we unleashed compassion. And we basically, last time we did this, we didn't meet we said instead of coming to church, we're going to go be the church for one weekend. We unleashed 10,000 people and 162 projects. Matter of fact, Home Depot called us and said, we're going to shut down. Can we do a project with you guys? What would your answer be? Yeah, pay for it. And it was kind of a cool thing. I read that thing, selling their possessions and goods. I went, our people have never done this. So I said, we're going to do California's largest garage sale. Hundreds of our people did garage sales all on the same Saturday. And on Sunday, they brought all the money from the garage sale. We told, bring it all. If you're going to keep some of it, read about Ananias and Sapphira. So we said, they brought all the money to the church. We took an offering. Get this, people gave about $120,000 in that offering. We didn't keep a dime of it. We divided it up. We took the 20 ministries in town that work with the poor, and we just showed up the next week and handed them all a check for $5,000 to $10,000 each. Okay? I mean, that stuff happens, and my favorite is a recent example. A few weeks ago, we do a conference called Thrive. We did a conference in Southern California called Thrive. It sold out at about 2,000 people, and so what happened is this. I'm up, and I get up at the start of one of the general sessions, a couple thousand people in the audience, and I get my cell phone out, and I call a local pizza parlor, and everybody can hear this because I have the microphone right here, and I ordered 1 pepperoni pizza. And then I hang up, and then I told the entire crowd, we have got to learn as Christians to unleash compassion. So buckets are going to come down the aisle, and we are going to try to break the Guinness Book of World Record for pizza tip. And then I told them this. I said, we've already prearranged this with the pizza place. The lady who's delivering this is a mother who's really been hurting. She's from El Salvador. She's got several kids. It was a gang-infested village her kids were growing up in. So she brought all her kids over, and they just had this amazing experience. One of her kids had a botched surgery in El Salvador, and he had lost his leg. So he's had 6 more surgeries, has 1 more surgery. Said, so if you want to tip this lady, she comes out on stage, and this sweet little thing, and I said, her brother-in-law, Jesus, perfect name for church, came with her. And I said to her, we would just want to tip you and say thank you for what you're doing with your son. And so a few people chipped in. And she starts crying when she realizes somebody cares about her. She starts crying even before she hears what happened. And so we said, we think we broke the Guinness Book of World Record. Because I would hope it would be like $600. This guy comes out, he hands me the note, and I go, I about fell over. I went. And so everybody in here chipped in for the pizza tip. And we're pretty sure this is a new world record because in that basket is $6,780. And I mean, she goes down on one knee. She's crying. I'm crying. Everybody I've never seen this before. A standing ovation for her. And as everybody's standing and they're cheering and crying at the same time, the electricity and what do you think the joy level in that building was? When you're generous, joy happens. And it just went crazy. And then I finally, when it all died down, everybody stayed standing. I just put my arm around her and I said, if you want to know why we do this stuff, it's because we all follow a guy named after your brother-in-law. And I said, and I just want to tell you that I hope this is a sign from God to you that God has not forgotten you. God has better days ahead for you, and you matter to God even when you might have thought life was so hard, you didn't matter to God anymore. You matter to God, and you matter to everybody. Everybody goes nuts. We're all crying. Everybody's cheering. It was amazing. Folks, that was about 10 weeks ago. She has been in church every week. Her whole family has been in church every week. This is for the first time. And half the employees at this restaurant who heard about this thing have started coming to this church. Good deeds still lead to goodwill, which still leads to openness to the greatest news ever. And Wes, you want to come on out? We're going to actually just get it real quiet in here. And if you would take that kid back out, now's a chance, now's your shot to unleash good news in the life of this kid. My wife and I'm not asking you to do anything we don't do. My wife and I have sponsored 8 kids now. And so Wes is going to walk you through this.
Sure. So this is a moment where if you filled this out, you just rip this off. Okay, it's the blue part there. And on your way out, we'll have people that are going to be standing at the exits with the giving buckets for you just to drop them in. And if you are unable to, just put it under your seat because we have another gathering. Our goal is to get every single kid that Compassion brings to our church sponsored today.
That's right.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool. Yeah, by the way, there are enough kids here today where you can take down every unsponsored kid in a country. And so that's kind of what's going on around here this weekend. And so we just want to say thank you for that. We're going to have Raphael come out and pray. Anything you wanted to add to that before?
Come on out here. And so would you go ahead and stand to your feet? And if you did rip off the blue section, if you would go ahead and hold on to the sponsored child part because you're going to take that home. That's yours. And Raphael, you say a blessing and a prayer in Swahili for our church and these kids that are being sponsored.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead and then I'll translate.
Sure. Let's pray. Baba, katika jina la Yesu tuaja mbele zako tukisema ni asanti kwa ukuu wako na uaminifu wako. Asanti kwa sababu wewe ni Mungu usiyebadilika jana, leo na hata milele. Asanti Mungu wa rehema hata kwa nafasi bora ambao umetupatia tukaweze kusikiza neno lako Bwana. Asanti Bwana hata kwa kanisa ya New Life Mungu kupitia mchungaji wao Wes kwa kazi mzuri ambao wanafanya Mungu. Tunaomba ya kwamba utazidi kuwabariki, utazidi kufungua mipaka yao, utazidi kutembea pamoja nao na utazidi kuenenda pamoja nao. Tunaomba pamoja na familia zao ya kwamba utamimina baraka zako kutoka juu mbinguni na utawapatia afya njema Bwana, ya kwamba utabariki kazi ya mikono yao, utabariki maofisi ambao wanafanya kazi. Ni asanti Mungu wa rehema na wale ambao wanakutumainia kwa vitu tofauti tofauti, ya kwamba utazidi Mungu wa rehema kuwamiminia baraka zako. Ni asanti Mungu wa rehema, katika jina la Yesu tumeomba na kuamini. In Jesus name we do believe. Amen.